Let me ask you something. Have you ever wondered if there's a group of soldiers out there that's so secret, so incredibly elite, that their very existence feels more like a rumor than a fact? A unit that only gets the call when the stakes are higher than you can even imagine?
Well, what if those soldiers operate in total, complete silence? No parades, no press conferences, no public recognition at all. They're the US government's tool of last resort. You know, a scalpel in a world full of sledgehammers. Today, we're going to pull back that curtain just a little bit and take a look inside this shadowy organization.
All right, so what is this unit exactly? It's time we put a name to these ghosts.
So here it is, the official name. The 1st Special Forces Operational Detachment Delta. Yeah, it's a mouthful, so most people just call them Delta Force. And their job, their whole reason for being, is crystal clear. They are the US Army's absolute top-tier unit for taking on terrorism and rescuing hostages anywhere on the planet at a moment's notice.
Now, you've probably heard of SEAL Team 6, right? And it's a fair comparison. Both are these incredible elite units under the same command, the Joint Special Operations Command, or JSOC. That's the group that handles America's most sensitive missions. But they really operate with different philosophies. Delta Force takes secrecy to a whole other level. They specialize in these small, surgical missions where being completely anonymous is just as crucial as actually succeeding.
So what does a day at the office look like for them? Well, we're talking direct action against enemy forces, we're talking about dismantling entire terrorist networks, insanely complex hostage rescues, where every single second is the difference between life and death, and of course, tracking down and capturing or eliminating high-value targets. These are not your standard military ops. These are the highest risk, highest reward missions imaginable, and they demand nothing less than perfection.
But you know, a unit like this doesn't just appear out of nowhere. Its origins are actually rooted in a global crisis. A real tragedy that exposed a massive weakness and planted the seed for what would eventually become Delta Force. And the timeline here is pretty stark. It really all starts in 1972, when the world watched in horror as the Munich Olympics massacre unfolded. That event made it painfully obvious that the US had no specialized force to handle that kind of crisis. But a US Army colonel, Charles Beckwith, who had actually trained with the legendary British SAS, he saw that gap. He pushed for a new kind of American unit, and by 1977, Delta Force was officially and very quietly born.
So you've got the unit, you've got the mission, but who on earth fills its ranks? I mean, what kind of person does it take to become one of these ghost soldiers?
Well, the first thing you have to understand is you don't find Delta Force, they find you. There are no recruitment posters, no website to apply on, no way. Candidates are scouted and handpicked from the absolute best of the best that the US Army has. Rangers, Green Berets, you name it.
And the selection process? It's just brutal. It's not an exaggeration to say it's designed to break people. We're talking about extreme physical tests, long-distance marches over mountains with crushing weight, constant stress, and almost no sleep. But see, the goal isn't just to find the strongest guy. It's to find the one person who can still think, who can still solve problems, when their body is just screaming at them to quit.
And that right there, that gets to the absolute core philosophy of the whole thing. The instructors running the course, they're not looking for the guy who finishes the march first. They're looking for the one who stays calm, who keeps their head, and who can still think logically when everything is going completely wrong. Because in the real world, the ability to make a clear-headed decision under fire is so much more valuable than just raw strength. It's a test of the mind, just disguised as a test of the body.
And once you're in, the training completely flips a switch. It's not about just following orders anymore, it's about thinking for yourself. Operators are trained to be these incredibly adaptable problem solvers who can improvise on the fly because, let's face it, no mission ever goes exactly to plan. They are literally forged into autonomous weapons.
But creating this kind of super soldier is only half the battle. To be truly effective operating in the shadows, they need a weapon that's way more powerful than any gun or gadget, and that weapon is absolute secrecy.
Seriously, their most powerful weapon is their own invisibility. The entire way they operate is built on this idea of functioning completely and totally outside of the public eye.
And to keep that invisibility, you're not going to see them running around in uniform on a mission. Nope, they blend in. They wear civilian clothes so they can move through any environment without anyone looking twice.
They'll use regular, unmarked cars and trucks, making their movements basically untraceable. The whole point is to be deniable, to be ghosts who can operate anywhere and just disappear without leaving a trace. And all of this secrecy, it serves a huge strategic purpose. It lets the US government conduct these incredibly sensitive missions without causing a major political firestorm or escalating a conflict. For Delta Force, being unseen is every bit as vital as being effective.
So when you put all of these pieces together, the mission, the history, the type of operator, the intense secrecy, what do you actually get? You get a completely unique instrument of national power.
Because the modern Delta Force operator is so much more than just a soldier. You got to think of them as a hybrid. Sure, they're part warrior, but they're also part intelligence operative, gathering crucial info on the ground, and part creative problem solver, figuring out solutions on the fly in some of the most hostile places you can imagine.
At the end of the day, Delta Force isn't for everyday problems. It exists for the absolute worst-case scenarios. It's for those terrifying moments on the world stage where there is zero room for error. They're the final, last option when every other option is off the table.
Which really leaves us with a pretty fascinating question to think about. I mean, we celebrate the victories we can see, right? But for a unit like Delta Force, success is silence. Their greatest achievements, the things that saved countless lives, will probably stay classified forever. And it just makes you wonder, in this world of shadow warfare, what does victory really look like? And what is its true cost?